Hey everyone, this is Derrick Bros with Activist Post and the Conscious Resistance Network, and today is March 24th, 2016. It's the 40-year anniversary of the beginning of Argentina's dirty war. Currently, President Obama is down in Argentina visiting with Argentine President Mauricio Macri, and they are discussing building new relations between the two nations. And at the same time, they are also discussing healing the wounds of Argentina's dirty war. And President Obama has promised to release new military and intelligence files from that time period that would declassify those files and show more information about the U.S.'s role in the dirty war. And Obama's visit is also being protested by mothers, grandmothers, parents, family members who still are missing their children after 40 years, and who think that President Obama's presence there is a slap in the face to them as they try to remember this horrible tragedy. So what is Argentina's dirty war? What does it have to do with the United States? And why should you care? That's what we're going to talk about briefly. As I said, 40 years ago today, March 24th, 1976, the dirty war began when General Jorge Rafael Videla declared martial law after leading a military coup that lasted until 1983. So this coup that he led, it caused the death of around 30,000 people some who were victims of being thrown out of helicopters into the ocean, to the Atlantic Ocean, alive. Some of you may have read about this before. And basically this was a pushback. This was, an extreme dictatorship that came to power, military dictatorship that came to power, and left-wing activists and pretty much any opposition activists were legally detained and tortured. Thousands of people were detained and tortured. As I said, many thousands more were also killed. And eventually the general was sentenced to prison for human rights violations, and he died behind bars in 2013. Now the president of Argentina is calling the dirty wars the darkest chapter in their history. And as I said, President Obama is trying to remember the victims of this dictatorship. But we have to not only remember those victims, but we have to remember how this was allowed to happen. And the dirty war was part of a bigger operation that the United States was operating called Operation Condor. And if you know anything about Operation Condor, then you know a man by the name of Henry Kissinger, former Secretary of State, was heavily involved in this. And Operation Condor was basically a campaign of political repression and terror that involved assassinations, intelligence operations, torture, as we said, of activists. And it involved Chile with, the dictator there, and Argentina as well. So these and other South American nations were affected by this as well. But look into Operation Condor. It's definitely a piece of history that you should know about. It's been slowly declassified over time, and as well as the programs being declassified, we've also learned that Henry Kissinger was heavily involved in this program. And it was in fact Henry Kissinger's approval of Argentina's decision to move forward with this repressive campaign that some have said led to the deaths of these people. Obviously Henry Kissinger wasn't the president or the one in charge of Argentina itself, but he made it clear that the United States would not intervene if he did it quickly and helped him, if he repressed the quote unquote terrorists, the rebels, the people fighting back against the government very quickly. And this was confirmed after years of suspicion in 2004 when the National Security Archive released a secret memo recounting a conversation between Assistant Secretary of State for Human Rights and the U.S. Ambassador in Buenos Aires. This was in April 1977, and they had a meeting to discuss Henry Kissinger and Argentine Foreign Minister. And they make it clear that Henry Kissinger gave the green light. And now, in 1987, Martin Edward Anderson, writing for The Nation, he reported that Kissinger had given the Argentine generals permission to carry out their state-sponsored terrorism. And then again, in 2014, another memo was released which made it even more clear than the national security file. This one contains a conversation between the ambassador and the secretary again, discussing Argentina's fears of lecturing from the United States. And he says, quote, "The Argentines were very worried that Kissinger would lecture to them on human rights. Guzzetti and Kissinger had a very long breakfast, but the secretary did not raise the subject. Finally, Guzzetti did. Kissinger asked, "How long will it take you to clean up the problem?" And what he means by that is, killing these people, getting rid of your rebels, and restoring peace for the state. Guzzetti replied that it would be done by the end of the year. Kissinger approved. In other words, Ambassador Hill explained, Kissinger gave the Argentines the green light. Now, Kissinger also expressed concern over new human rights laws, saying that they could be held accountable. He told the generals to hurry up and get their campaign done so they could get back to normal. And a leaked transcript from Monday, March 10th, 1975, outlines Kissinger's thoughts on the legality of government-sponsored crime. Some of you may have heard this before. He says, "Before the Freedom of Information Act, I used to say at meetings, the illegal we do immediately. The unconstitutional takes a little longer." And then he laughs. But since the Freedom of Information Act, I'm afraid to say things like that. Yeah, I don't buy that Henry Kissinger is afraid because, as I point out in this article, Henry Kissinger has evaded questions and investigations in France, Spain, Chile, and Argentina related to his role in disappearances of citizens in the United States and other countries as part of Operation Condor. And this guy is he has diplomatic immunity. No one will hold him accountable. And none of the officials, there have been some generals in Argentina who've gone to prison, who've been held responsible for, the deaths. But overall, these people have been able to go freely, the perpetrators of these crimes. And it's up to us to learn this history, to spread it, to spread awareness, and then to fight back, to find ways to resist government at every turn and oppression at every turn. And not just government oppression, but corporate oppression, systemic oppression, all of the forms of oppression that we face that are instituted by these men in power that believe that they belong in power and they believe that they have authority over you, when in reality nothing could be further from the truth. You have to remind yourself that you are free, you are beautiful, and you are capable of amazing things. This has been your history lesson for today. I hope you guys will spread this and share this message.